Welcome to Week in Review. Thank you for allowing me the privilege to be able to hopefully equip, inspire, and challenge you. We're living in challenging times, aren't we? When you look back over the past number of weeks, and today I want to really put the spotlight on it's time to stand against transgender and abortion activists. This is not a time to be silent. You remember the Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who stood up to Adolf Hitler and Nazism, and he was martyred for it. He said that not to speak is to speak, and not to act is to act. Silence in the face of evil is only evil itself. God will not let us be guiltless. And so it's a time to take up the challenge. If you look in Ephesians chapter 6, you see active verbs. In the evil day, it says that you might stand in the evil day. And it says, having done all, stand. You know, I noticed that the Family Research Council, with wonderful people in D.C. equipping us, they have now just released daily news reports. And what do they call it? The Washington Stand. And the family, you know, another great organization out of Tupelo, Mississippi, is the group that stands for the family, the American Family Association. And their latest publication, they've changed the name to what? The Stand. It's a time to stand. I don't know if you were in the military or you remember being on an athletic team or whatever, when the coach or the leader needed everybody to come to order and get in line, they'd blow a whistle. Remember that? What was it? Stand. Let's go. Stand at attention. And the Lord today is looking to us to take a stand. It's not a time to be passive or complacent. You know, when I was booted from a mega church because I took a stand on same-sex marriage and wanted to basically just educate people with a biblical worldview, I remember when, you know, the leader said, you know, just leave, just don't come back. And then after same-sex marriage was legalized, I called him and he said, did you really think that your video was going to really stop same-sex marriage? And I said, no, but I was there to equip and make a contribution and change hearts and minds. And that's what we need to do in this hour. Now, we've got to drop the deceptive terms, subterfuge, euphemisms, and that's what's put forth by this administration. They'll say gender-affirming care, women's reproductive medical care, and they'll use terms like progressive. You know what? We need to drop these terms and say, look, these basically are what? Radicalized Democrat Party members, and they are socialists, they're Marxists, they're globalists, and we need to call a spade a spade. And now when we deal with an issue, let's say like transgenderism, it's heating up, and they're trying to push it to our children in the schools. You know, in the Bible, in Genesis, and Jesus reiterated this in the Gospels. He said that God created them male and female. And for this cause shall a man leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and then the two become one flesh. That's the biblical view on what? Morality, family, marriage. But there are people today that are saying, throw that up in the air. Well, biologically, there's only what? 2 basic chromosomes. If you got 2 X's, you're a female. If you've got an X and a Y, you're a male. You can say, well, I believe I'm a dolphin, or I believe that I'm this or that. It doesn't matter. Now, I want you to know that the Army has got some new directives. If you, as a woman, or maybe you're thinking your daughter would like to be in the armed forces, do you know they have directives now that your daughter would be forced, yes, to shower with biological males? You say that would never happen. Oh, you check it out. You look at the new instructions coming down the pike. How about check out what Disney's doing with the Disney Channel? They've introduced their first transgender. Take a look at it.
I'm thinking I should ask Cammy.
You're ditching Ivy for Cammy. Ruthless. Turns out the devil wears yoga pants.
Compression pants.
It's not time to be silent, and I want to challenge you. There's a man of God. I love this guy, and he's very authoritative, but he doesn't pull any punches. And Rand Paulette, maybe you've heard him. I want you to watch him. He's getting up, and he should inspire all of us as he addresses transgenderism and takes a stand. Listen.
Here's something else I'm not supposed to say. Ain't but 2 genders. Two genders. Ain't nothing but men and women. And I can already see WRL out there. They got they licking their pencils right now, trying to write fiercest as they can. Get every word of this here. Get every word of this. You can go to the doctor and get cut up. You can go down to the dress shop and get made up. You can go down there and get drugged up. But at the end of the day, you were just a drugged up, dressed up, made up, cut up, man or woman. You ain't changed what God put in you, that DNA. You can't transcend God's creation. I don't care how hard you try. The transgender movement in this country, if there's a movement in this country that is demonic and that is full of the spirit of Antichrist, it is the transgender movement. It's time for grown-ups and time for Christians to start standing up and being unafraid to tell the truth. Come after me if you want to. I don't care. You want my head? Here it is right here. Come on, come get it. I don't care, because it's time for us to stand up. Now, I'm not afraid to stand up and tell the truth about that issue. They're dragging our kids down into the pit of hell, trying to teach them that mess in our schools. Tell you like this, that ain't got no place at no school. 2 plus 2 don't equal transgender. It equals 4. You need to get back to teaching them how to read instead of teaching them how to go to hell.
We do it and speak with compassion, but boldly. The righteous are bold as a lion. So we're addressing transgenderism, and on abortion, we're not pulling any more punches. We're not saying, well, abortion's like a tonsil removed or it's just a blob. We know this is a baby. Jeremiah 1:5, what did the Lord say? The Lord is saying, I formed you in the womb, and before you were born, what? I set you apart and I ordained you to be what? There was a purpose. So God forms us. He's the creator. And people try to obliterate this. They undermine this. And so you and I are going to speak up with compassion, but we're going to make it clear that what? Basically, no human being has the right to take another person's life. And what's in the mother's womb is a developing human being. So to kill that developing human being with a beating heart and feeling pain is murder. And so we're going to call it what it is. This is infanticide if the child is already out of the womb, and then we're saying, well, it's okay, just let the child die. The Democrat Party is saying in solidarity, we believe that abortion should be allowed right up until, what, a second before that child comes forth. That's infanticide, folks. That's murder. That's taking a human life. Do you know that when you study the Bible in the Old Testament, Israel fell prey to seduction, deception? What was it? They actually offered their infants on the altar of Molech and Baal. They burned them alive. They died, and they thought it was going to bring about some fertility blessing to them. In the Roman Empire, infanticide was legal. The practice where if you didn't like the child that was born, if it was the wrong sex, or there was any disability, or maybe there was some reason you didn't want the child, it was fine to just dump that child on a dung heap, or let them be burned alive, just abandon them in the street. Well, what did the Christians do? Well, do you know that Tertullian, he was an observer and a historian. He's the one that said, see how these Christians love one another. The Christians responded. They took a stand. And what? It's what Jesus said. You're the salt of the earth. Salt holds back decay. And so they established asylums for abandoned children. They picked them up off the streets, off the dunghill. And whether it was disabled or what, they'd give that child a home. They adopted them, brought them in, and they'd give them a decent burial if the child had already died. Now today we know Roe v. Wade has been reversed. And there's people that are still trying to stand against this. It's a battle. And so it's a time for celebration, but also activation. It's a time where it's taken from the Supreme Court and given back to what? The states and the church. So we need to respond in this hour. We need to do like the early Christians do. And so I offer to you 7 things. I'd say number 1, people say, well, what should we do? Well, we can't be passive. Number 1, we are going to pray as this is being resisted. And Mr. Biden, and it's not him, it's the people that are around him. What are they promoting now? They're saying the Department of Justice should now, enforce lawlessness and disobedience to this decision that's been handed down now by the Supreme Court and given back to the states. That's not the purpose of the Department of Justice. They're to uphold the law. But Biden and his radicalized Democrats, they want the Department of Justice to go to every state now and challenge those that would dare try to protect human life. This administration wants to promote chemical abortions, abortion pills. So what are we going to do? Number 1, we have to pray for God's wisdom and boldness. Number 2, we need to make sure that we're participating by voting for the righteous people that are pro-life. That is not just being a single issue, voter, but if anybody, I don't care what, stands for abortion, the killing of babies, they should never get our vote. Well, you say, what else should we do? Well, what we need to do is we also need to be educated. We need to be equipped. I call your attention. I've written some articles and I have some videos. Just go to Charisma News and check it out and learn how to respond when people raise the arguments. Well, my body, my choice, and all that. There are biblical and beautiful responses. We should also consider, yes, adoption and foster care. It's our chance to rise up. I was just with my son. They've adopted 3 children, one from Nicaragua, yes, South Africa, and China. We adopted a child from Korea. That's an opportunity. Or you can support couples that want to adopt, but they just don't have the money. Also, what we need to do is, and this is very important, we need to support the crisis pregnancy centers with our finances, with our prayer support, and our engagement and our involvement. We have that privilege. We can supply meals and counseling, and that's our chance now in this hour. This is what it means to be going forth. Also, we need to engage with people. I was buying a pair of shoes just 2 weeks ago, and the young girl, she was maybe, I don't know what her age was, but young, and she actually, as we talked, said, well, what do you make of the Roe v. Wade thing that was reversed? Do you know, I talked to her, I drew her out, and then I shared from the Bible. By the time we were done, she was nodding in agreement. She understood no one has the right to kill an unborn baby. So this is an hour for us to rise up, to stand strong. And I just want to encourage you, those that are trying to undermine the Constitution and say, well, the Constitution is being, violated and women's right, it's a constitutional privilege. This is deception. It's a lie. And it's subterfuge, and we need to stand up. I want to end by just saying it's your and my hour as part of the church to be salt. And do you know what Abraham Lincoln said? I love this. Look this, and I'm going to read it to you. Abe Lincoln said this concerning those that are trying to subvert the Constitution, and it's all around us today on transgenderism, so-called gay rights, and abortion. How about this quote? We, the people, are the rightful masters of both Congress and the courts. Not to overthrow the Constitution, but to overthrow the men and women who would pervert the Constitution. And that's our call. So let's stand for righteousness. Let's stand in the evil day. And just like this, a little baby that's in the womb, precious little one, we're going to defend. And we're also going to say, God made us male and female. We're not going to let our children be perverted in their thinking, propagandized. Sorry, Disney, we stand for Jesus.